I just want you on the bed.
Yeah.
Just, you know,
doing the whole phone hand thing. Hi there, everyone. Call now for some stats.
there's the kid at school that you thought was a complete helmet. The next time you might see him, he might not be a knobhead. Players like you are gold dust in five-a-side. No, they're a dying breed. They're a dying breed. Hello and welcome to That Peter Crouch podcast with me, Peter Crouch. We've got Chris Stark and Statman Dave. We're not in the boozer, but we are back stronger, which is exciting.
It is exciting. I suppose we should kind of explain where we're at. We had a bit of a wanky thing that we needed to do before. So we've had to do the podcast from here.
We're in a different kind of environment, aren't we?
Different
It's
environment.
a half pint kind of situation, isn't it?
They'll only serve us beers in half pints.
I've seen little espresso macchiatos everywhere, laptops, beanie hats. Young people. It's a vibe out there.
It's not the normal place. So the normal pub that we're in is undergoing repairs, but we'll be back stronger in there very soon. But for now, boys, it's good to see you again.
Great to be back. You know, I've been dying for a Chumbawamba. It's been a bit longer than we anticipated. Again,
A few things we've got to catch up on. Obviously, we've been getting loads of messages from you guys doing the whole, stop dicking around. When's the podcast back? I always know we're due bringing back the podcast when you start receiving these kind of things en masse.
I did the pod with Ab, didn't I, recently? It's been a lot of love for it, which has been great. But also, there are the diehards that love this pod, and they've said stop dicking around. It's it's not what we want. But I'm ready for this now. There's a time and a place for both. There's that time with your wife, isn't there? And then there's that time where you get away with the lads. This is escapism.
It is, and I know it's always been that for you. And I do remember one of my favourite stories I would say of you was we were recording the podcast, Dave. It was just before you joined, and Abby's turned up, and she's in the window behind Crouchy, who's recording, and he's got his headphones on, but he knows she's there, and he's saying to us, "Shall I just pretend I can't hear her?" Statman, how are you?
Yeah, sensational. Actually, I've got some questions for Crouchy. Crouchy, how do I score more goals at five-a-side? In the final third, I feel like I'm lost.
Really? Where are you playing? Are you pancaking like Chris, or are you pretty central?
Usually at the back.
Are you?
Defending blocks, tackles, interceptions. But when we're attacking, I feel sometimes a bit lost.
But those players are key in five-a-side. Everyone wants to be that, that floater, that player who gets the ball on the half turn, goes past someone and finishes. Players like you are gold dust in five-a-side. No, they're a dying breed. They're a dying breed. Everyone, wherever you go, your local goals, Power League, wherever you go and play your football, there's to a penny. The white booted, flamboyant Ronaldinho type player. You see them everywhere. A player like you, Dave, doesn't need to score goals.
Don't need to.
Put your body on the line, protect, destroy.
That's it.
No, you just don't get it in five-a-side anymore.
You've always struck me as a keeper, if I'm honest. If you were my...
I've got good reactions.
I don't know why.
Like a cat.
Do you not think that?
Keeper.
Do you not see him more as a
cat?
for your stature? I don't know what it is.
Goalkeeping stature. Is it because goalkeepers all go to the gym these days? Is that what it is, Chris?
Maybe it is. Yeah, maybe it's. Yeah, you're a modern keeper.
Modern goalkeeper.
Modern day keeper.
I don't
Are you
know
still
why.
playing, Chris? How's it? Are you wearing shin pads still? What's going on?
I'd like to play a lot more. I've not played for ages. I've almost developed a fear now because obviously my last few experiences of playing football have been totally ruined by the fact that I either wear shin pads and get absolutely caned by an opposition team, or don't wear shin pads and become even more of a target because I'm not wearing them. My career's been ruined, hasn't it, because of this podcast?
I feel awful about that. I really do.
I might get into walking football. I saw that advertised. The only thing I would say with walking football is I think if you're a good player at walking football, the temptation would be to get into a small trot or a run.
So hard.
In which case you're cheating.
You have to get your hips going, wouldn't you? You've seen the walking
the hips
in the
unreal.
Olympics. You're just throwing it, aren't you?
For me, it's not exercise. I feel like it's like a mode of transport.
But do you respect? So say walking in the Olympics, right? Do you respect that as a sport?
No, I do not respect it. No.
So you don't
If
view
you
that.
walked in
You don't
here-
view that the same as 100 metre.
Are you joking? If I had a gold medal at walking, you'd go, "What? Incredible!" And I go, no, it was just walking.
You can't say that.
Crouchy, I reckon.
You'd have to.
Sometimes I think we turn you on certain issues with this podcast. I think we're already at a place where walking needs to be.
No, but I don't know. I mean,
You've got to respect them. They're the
Why?
best in the world. Olympic gold at walking is the best in the world at walking. That's amazing.
I think you'd be really good, Crouchy. You got the stride length. You probably got the ability, like you're saying before. Walking just a mode of transport for you. Second nature. I reckon we could get you in.
What are the rules on it? Like you can't have 2 feet leave the ground at the same time.
Yeah, I think. That's exactly it.
I apologise to the walkers, out there, but I'm sorry, I cannot see how it can be the same as, Daley Thompson, an athlete of like the most, incredible, like what he's gone through to be good at all those different sports. Linford Christie, like Usain Bolt. Well,
teachers, let's throw it out there.
I don't know.
You can teach us. There must be people listening to this that really enjoy the sport of walking. On a personal level, I do more walking than I do football. And I'm
because it's a mode of transport, Chris. It's not a sport.
So you're saying almost they could do an Olympic bus driving kind of race.
It's similar. I mean, it's literally like throwing something in like a mode of transport, isn't it? Like the Olympic flying from Brussels to London.
But don't you think there's something so satisfying? I mean, even at an amateur level, there's nothing better than if you're walking to the train station and you're in a race with someone else.
If you're both running for a train though, right, and someone goes past you, are you letting that happen?
Absolutely not.
No, obviously not. Like,
you trip them up. They miss the train. They get on.
You can't let them have it. You can't let them win.
I think we should get it out there as a thing, like if there is someone regularly trying to take you over in the mornings, like just email in and let us know, don't let them go past you.
Yeah. Statman, one thing I've got to ask you, fantasy football, obviously we haven't seen you for a while. What did we agree with him?
It was outside the top 100,000, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And it was a punishment that we decide. I've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is there's some positivity. We've gone from around 4 million in the world to 1.4 million. So I'm in the top, now 20% of players. The bad news is it's going to be very tough for me to do it.
The issue here is if you don't do it, I think we were dropping Statman.
That's right.
So I think you just become Dave.
That's it's fine on this podcast, but I don't think we could say that in my professional life because unfortunately I won't get any work. Who just wants Dave? Boring.
You set the limits on this.
Look, I genuinely feel I can do it.
Really?
I am in such a good wave right now. I'm really feeling the football. I can see what's happening pre-game.
But you're in the top million, Dave. My thing is for that top 100,000, they're all thinking the same. So you're relying on other people dropping the ball.
Yeah.
You're degrading the title of Statman. Like, if you think about it, you're a bit like a catfish at the moment. I don't want this to just be that hammering Dave episode.
No.
That's definitely not the case.
I think let's get this out of the way. We also need to work quickly just about Dave's station. And then
just a quick one. We just need a quick one about when we're going to get you on a Babe Station-esque set.
Just need you on 906 or whatever it is these days. I just want you on the bed.
Yeah.
Just, people call you up and we just
all for charity as well.
All
for a good cause.
For a good cause.
I'd like to do it for
We've
charity.
been across it. We'll raise some money for charity, and there, some perverts out there that would love it.
Yeah, some stat perverts. In case you're new to this podcast, welcome along. One of our ideas is we're going to do our version of Babe Station, which is going to be a Dave Station, and Dave will read stats to you. So the idea is Dave will be on your screens doing the whole phone hand thing. I don't know, you'd have to be familiar with the workings of other channels.
You sound like you know quite a lot about this, Chris.
Yeah, I want it to be that you can only hear the stats if you phone. Like, it's not like anyone can hear it. And then occasionally Dave will pick up the microphone like this. Hi there, everyone. Call now for some stats. I'm ready for your call. Call me now.
You want some late night stats?
It's going to be a big contract. This going to be paid well for this.
So let us know if you fancy that happening soon. We'd love to get on.
Yeah, we're across it. Just we're across it. I want all listeners to know we're across that. That'll be sorted.
Also, the last time you would have heard from us would have been Crouch Fest, which was, all looking back, one of the greatest nights of our lives.
I don't think we haven't really sort of debriefed on that, have we? Just an incredible night. It was something better than we even imagined. I thought
the energy was just absolutely insane. It was really weird. It almost felt like we kind of like all came together as one thing, and then it was just this amazing show.
It wasn't Live Aid, Dave, but we,
Emily Evis over there. Lovely. No, but I know
we all had a good crack.
Yeah, we all had a good time. We had a few beers. Everyone was all right.
It's taken this bizarre place in the musical
world.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Glastonbury.
Yeah, people enjoyed it, you know. Like, you say, I've spoke to a few musicians who were like, "Oh, sorry, I couldn't do Crouch Fest." And I was like, "It'd be great if you did, though,
Yeah, exactly.
the next time."
Well, we'll see. It'd be great to do it again. But as always with this podcast, we're back. We're back stronger. God knows where this series is going to lead, but we're going to have a lot of fun in the process. What is this episode about, boys?
Well, do you know what I thought? Because we're doing a Chumbawamba, we're doing a Back Stronger. I thought we'd do the comeback episode. There's loads of comebacks I've had during my career, but there's been some great moments, great games where there's been big comebacks. So this episode is about the Chumbawamba, the comeback episode.
All right, let's do it.
There's a few messages here about, I'm a big fan of a nickname. Like, how do you come back from this if your nickname is this? I was recently added to the Last Man Standing WhatsApp chat. Anyways, a lad in the chat called Shed. After searching through the names, I discovered that his name was Ian Woodhouse.
That's amazing. That was from a listener called Josh. We got one from Michael, which is also quite good. My mate Fergus McBride once farted and burped at the same time, and of course now he is known as Fartus McBurp.
Oh, Jesus.
Great.
I've got to get into this one for Patrick because I'm a huge fan of this. There's a lad who works on our building site and he looks like Elton John. So the lads call him Socket Man. I just love it. I just love a good nickname like that.
We get a lot of these, so keep sending them in. By the way, I don't know if we've shouted out the email address. If you want to get in touch, Crouchy email address.
It's peter.crouch@acast.com.
All about comebacks today. Dave, I guess we should start. You're a big Man United fan, aren't you?
Yeah, the way that United have come back, probably since Ferguson. Like, it's taken 10 years to get to this point, but this is probably one of the biggest comebacks. And you look at someone like Marcus Rashford this year, Crouchy, that is a big comeback from last season. Yeah. How impressed have you been with him?
Yeah, it like you say, he was in a difficult place, wasn't he? And I thought he might leave. Like with quite a few of the players, actually. There's quite a few. It's like a huge rebuild project. But the manager's come in, and like you say, he's getting so much out of Marcus Rashford, especially. But there's a few Chumbawambas in that team.
I mean, he's the epitome of back stronger in like a literal sense as well. He physically looks stronger, doesn't he? Like, I mean, it's like he's just kind of been upgraded.
We all know his potential, and it was realising that potential. And I think a lot of people forget that you get to like a Mane and a Salah, they kind of turn good at 25, 26. Rashford is now 25. Since the World Cup, he's been directly involved in more goals than any other player in Europe. He's already bettered his best ever goal scoring season.
I think Marcus Rashford is getting a lot of praise right now, isn't he? And there's a narrative of something's changed. You know, he's this new force.
Well, the Casemiro signing's been key in it. Let's be honest. And like, I think
he's got an amazing attitude. That guy, isn't he?
I was quite sceptical about him coming, winning everything, and he is the exact opposite. Like, he's lifted the whole place.
And when you look at Casemiro at Real Madrid, he was a destroyer. He'd play off the ball. Modric and Kroos would be in possession all the time. The incredible thing about Casemiro, I didn't respect his quality. His touch, his passing has been incredible.
From a fan's point of view, you must love it because he riles the fans and he plays to the crowd. He's like a gladiator almost.
But that's why they've changed. I feel like it was a bit soft, you know, like it always felt like Man United were a bit soft at the times. And it's like now with Martinez especially, and I think Casemiro, there's a bit more steel to them, you know, other than the Liverpool game, which has been well documented, Dave.
How would you play against Lisandro Martinez, Crouchy? If you were facing him?
You know, the thing is like there's a stigma behind, you know, playing the ball in the air. Like it's, no one wants to play like that anymore, right? But if I played against a centre-half like that, you'd have to utilise the weapons that I'd have. And I'm, you know, far taller.
But can you have, I'm not claiming they're short asses, but can you have more short ass defenders now? Because anything that you would ever do to challenge the ball that you would see as your advantage would be challenged by VAR. Even just to get above someone looks dodgy in slow mode. Imagine you playing now. I know we've spoken about VAR, right? And I'm not turning it into that. I mean, most headed goals are challenged and checked.
I did some filming recently, and there was like 20 lads in the box, and a cross came in, and I had to go and on my own and go and challenge like 20 defenders.
There was 20 of them.
Yeah, they'd like filled the box full of defenders, right? And it was like the challenge was, could I get a header in against 20, right?
Were they average sized humans?
Normal human beings, right? No, none of my height, right? So the crosses were quite decent. And as they were coming in, I realised then, like, my competitive sort of edge sort of came in, and I was like, I'm not losing this fucking header, right? So the crosses were going on. I was making them, putting them high, because that's how I use my advantage. If they put them in, they're whipping them in low, it's anyone's ball, right? I'm like, look, hang it up there, like, so I can get a run on it. and I'm going to come in. And I couldn't believe how competitive I was about it. They were hanging it up, and I was coming over, and I was smashing these like extras who they basically were, like with elbows and climbing on them and like trying to smash headers in. And afterwards, I was like, what was all that about? And I didn't realize how much I used my arms, because something just kicked in, and I went straight back into like football mode, like how I would play. And I couldn't believe sort of like how much I did use my arms to sort of not hurt people, but like get leverage and sometimes just disrupt them.
Enforce space.
Yeah.
But then I don't think, unless I'm mistaken, that was against the rules. I just mean that now I think anything that would be challenged, it would be, I don't know. Be interesting. But then Haaland gets away with, I don't even mean gets away with, I think it's legitimate.
Yeah.
I just mean Haaland's a physical player.
No, you play on the edge, don't you? And I think there's times where you go over the edge, and there's times where you don't. You're on the borderline, and you get an advantage.
Did you find, like Crouchy, at the end of your career, that was a little bit more that referees would do? That those small little things they would pick up a lot more.
Yeah, I had to adapt my game, especially in Europe. I remember there was a thing. I think you can have a look online actually, but like Graham Poll mentioned it in the World Cup. He mentioned me specifically using your arms, so every referee then knew about me.
That's incredible bias.
Yeah,
because then all the referees are being like, "Well, he's the example of what they shouldn't be doing," so they're going to look at you more.
You need to look at it more.
That's
exactly.
so true.
Yeah.
That is so true. Like you can't be a current player and being used as an example.
Yeah,
to referee
in the exact competition that this player is going to play in.
It was what it was, and then I pulled the fella's hair and scored. To be fair,
so you came back stronger then.
I suppose I did. Yeah, in actual fact, I mean, with Graham Poll was spot on, and that should have been chalked off.
You know, when you were doing the team talks for yourselves, was it the other way round? So there'd be slideshows on referees. I don't think we've ever talked about this. Would you be taught as a team to act differently because of the referee that was chosen?
Well, like you say, like I've since come to, I don't want to say respect referees more, but like understand their role. Like when I was playing, it was always ref, and I never really like took into consideration which ref it would be. And I don't want to come across as disrespectful, but I just always, for me, it was ref. It was like about my performance. I was so selfish about every single game. It wasn't about who we were even playing or who I was playing with or who was in the team. Sometimes I didn't even recognise who was in my team. You know, I was so selfish and like single-minded about what I wanted to achieve. As long as I had the right people at left back, right back, I wouldn't care.
Do you analyse the refs at that level, Dave?
I try not to, because you shouldn't. The game is the game. The rules are exactly the same. It shouldn't be refereed in a different way, in my opinion.
Do you think it does?
I think it massively does. We can see it across Europe. We can see it in the Premier League. Like you're saying, Crouchy, you adapted your game to play in Europe. That is a load of rubbish. It's the same game.
But it's just not, is it? Like even the World Cup, like, you know, there was that mad rule that came in just for the World Cup where you play loads of injury time, right? And that is the only time we've ever done that because it's been brief before the World Cup. And I actually quite liked it, to be fair, but that happened and then it just didn't happen again. Like, so it's a different almost. There's different rules for each competition, which seems wrong.
I mean, we're talking about comebacks today, and I guess refs have to have the same sort of thing.
They need to have a comeback, I think.
You know?
A Chumbawamba moment.
But I've played a load of comeback games. My two biggest comeback games, I think, would be West Ham in the FA Cup final 2006. I remember playing a North London derby as well, where we won in the last minute against Arsenal. Yunus Kabul came up and scored. Again, a huge Chumbawamba. Okay, so let me mention to you, right, I've just mentioned a couple there. What about when a Chumbawamba comeback moment, right?
Oh, they're the best.
Where Leicester missed the pen at Watford.
Don't.
And then Troy Deeney goes up and scores. What a moment that was.
I mean, I'm totally biased, aren't I? Because I'm a Watford fan. But those moments, they are comebacks. They are, you know, you're behind. Worse in that situation was the fact that Leicester had been given a penalty, which I think most football fans would say wasn't a penalty. It was kind of unjust. So to be able to save that penalty and the ball come out and then go down the other end for Deeney to score, and it's, you know, this famous, you know,
some moment,
Deeney, and he comes running into the crowds, and it was a sunny day, and it was just the whole situation. You're through to the playoff final. I guess the only disappointing thing from my point of view on that was just, if we're talking comebacks, was that in the final, it was a load of nonsense and the final was rubbish. And in a way, you just wish that moment had been a final moment, exactly, to go up.
So that game you mentioned, the FA Cup final, what did Rafa say at half time?
What we were speaking about was, I don't know if you remember, the lead up to that was like West Ham were dancing quite a lot. It was Pardew, there was Anton Ferdinand, Rio Coca, a lot of them were doing this dance, and we were like, look, we're Liverpool, like we can't lose to these and see them dancing around the cup, it's going to kill us. And that felt like it was the inspiration to then go on and get a result. And I know, listen, we can all say, we came back. A lot of it was to do with Steven Gerrard. Let's be honest. Well, he scored 2 absolute belters.
What was he like at half time in that? Was he the kind of person
fuming.
So when he was fuming, would he be, like, to set the scene a bit, manager would be stood up, right? You guys would be sat down. Would Stevie tend to be sat down, or would he be stood by the manager? And was he almost given, would the manager talk and then pass it to Stevie? Like,
I remember all of us stood up at, when we first went in there, and it was like, what we're going to do, this and that. And obviously Stevie would be more vocal than everyone else. And, we can't let this happen. Da, da, da. It was a big shouting kind of conversation that Stevie would have led. And then Rafa stands up and gives his team talk. And then it went back to Stevie and Jamie Carragher, really, who mainly talked about what they wanted from us in the second half. Steven Gerrard did most of it, like those 2 goals. I remember, getting my head on the first one, knocking it down, and then him coming onto it and just lashing it home. But then the second one was, it was almost like we were dead and buried, really. And then he had cramp. He sort of got up. It was like slow motion. The ball was just bouncing. The only thing he could do was swing a leg at it. He just went, I'm just going to hit this. And he hit it, and that was that. Bang, goes in. And that the buzz, I don't think you can replicate a comeback. Like, you'd almost rather be losing.
Well, that's what football allows. That's one beautiful bit about the beautiful game, is that there is redemption potentially in every game of football, isn't there? And then sometimes it can have a narrative because it's for a title, or for Champions League, or for, avoiding relegation. Every game kind of offers it. That moment Steven Gerrard hit the ball, what you just said there is amazing, because sometimes players get cramp, right, or in a bad situation, and immediately they have to come off. In a strange kind of way, if he hadn't have had cramp, he would have maybe connected with the ball differently. Well,
what I'm saying is he might have, he was so far out, he might have got it down and played it out wide.
Yeah.
But it was the last throw of the dice, is what I'm saying.
It's all what ifs.
All these moments are like, they all cumulate in what happened, which is amazing to think, but it sends you loopy if you do start thinking about it.
So you're at that point there where the comebacks come, 91st minute equaliser, extra time goes through, not a great extra time. What was the huddle like before the penalty shootout? Did you know that you were going to win it because of the momentum?
I think it's so hard for a team to come back and then win on penalties when you've given goals away like that, and you think you've won it, and then you don't, and then it's written in the stars, isn't it? It's like you think you're not going to win this now because you've had your chance, and I think that's when we knew sort of like we had them, really. And then I remember when the winning penalty went in, or Pepe Reina saved a couple, didn't he? And that buzz was just phenomenal. But even talking about some of the best comebacks, like Liverpool been involved in so many of them, but that Istanbul one was absolutely insane. Even the Barcelona comeback.
Yeah, we've got a lot of comebacks that have been absolutely iconic, and a lot of them have been in the Champions League, which is just amazing, because it's for me, it's the best competition in the world. That comeback, what's not been said about that comeback?
Well, they've made programs on it, haven't they? There's like films on it. Isn't Stevie's thing called The Miracle of Istanbul or something? It was a miracle. It was an AC Milan team that were at the top of their game, 3-0 up at half time, and Italian sides don't give away goals. I remember watching it with utter disbelief.
It's crazy, the whole thing. And I think there's comebacks in terms of teams, isn't there? And then there's comebacks in terms of individual players, and we've spoken about Marcus Rashford this season. And let's look at the manager's role in this as well. Have you been part of a team where you feel like a player has been written off and out of favour with the manager, and either through extreme parching or extreme skill has managed to turn their situation around.
Not about luck or injuries, it's either parching or just ability.
But you know what? Like, there's a huge thing about parching, like, and being parched. Like, you can get places, you can. It's like, there are times, like, obviously Aaron Ramsdale, friend of the pod, mentioned El Parcio, Odegaard at Arsenal, and it's performed incredibly well. I mean, he may have got the armband from being El Parcio, but he's gone from strength to strength, and people forget the fact that he parched in the first place, and that's how good he's been.
Where do you, on the comebacks, Crouchy, back to that kind of Champions League environment, we've obviously spoke about Gerrard and that final that you were involved with, obviously Gerrard Istanbul. Where do you put it in a sense of, is it the manager that's super influential in these comebacks, or is it the player?
There are times, I think, when managers have, obviously said something or made the right changes, and you have to say, like, bringing Didier Man on, I think it was Smith, maybe UK, like, there was a few changes that were made that were influential in that match, and of course through time, but the players have to do it, don't they? They I think changing personnel helps a lot. I've been part of, when you do 2 or 3 changes and the whole dynamic of the match changes. So yeah, of course the substitutions are key. In that sense of, there's that belief as well. Obviously Rafa instilled belief at 3-0 down, which is incredible. One of the best examples of a Chumbawamba in football is the 99 final, Man United Bayern Munich. That was amazing as well. Like, I'm no Man United fan, of course, but just to see that, the way, the manner of it, like, it was dead and buried, wasn't it? Against an unbelievable Bayern Munich team as well. Like, what do you think's the best comeback of all time? I think it's personal though, because I think every team has their moments of this, and it's like what you said about Watford. For me, that personally was an unbelievable comeback. The greatest comeback of all time can't just be the most famous. Do you know what I mean? No. And I suppose if you equate it to a player as well, one of the biggest comebacks was like Jermaine Pennant, right? For me, when he had his issues, he went to Birmingham, he played with a tag on, and then he ends up sort of coming back and playing in the Champions League final. I think sometimes we're very quick to judge people and players on things that they do wrong. Definitely. But then, you could look at it through the other side and, maybe look at it with the glass half full and say, what he's actually been able to do has been a real success story. Mate, look at Robbie Savage. I fucking hated him when I was a Watford fan. Like, I distinctly remember being in the crowd, giving absolute pelters to him and him turning around and sort of giving it all back. You then meet the bloke. He's had a fantastic career in punditry. He's a lovely, lovely bloke. And I just think, comebacks. You said Robbie Savage has Chumbawamba'd in your eyes. He's had an extraordinary career since, hasn't he? And I think that's part of it. It's not even just in footballing sense. There's players that have become so successful outside of football, doing whatever it is they do, from punditry to, I don't know, even charity stuff or things that get supported. And it's, and they change your opinion of them. And in a weird kind of way, there is a comeback there as well. Yeah, I think you can do this in all walks of life. Like, obviously, there's all the famous games that we've talked about there. Like, there's millions of them, right? But there's anyone can do this, right? So if you're the Uncle Knobhead at the weddings, the next time you might see him, he might not be a knobhead. Yeah. There's the kid at school that you thought was a complete helmet, and then you meet him later on in life, and he's got a nice job, a nice family and wife, and you meet him and go, God, you were such a prick at school. I really like this, because there was one guy, right, at my school. He was such a fucking twat. Yeah. But you're so right. Actually, I don't judge him by the fact that he might have a family now, might be a top bloke and stuff like that. And I think what's amazing about this podcast is it's turning into a bit of an opportunity for us to all think of one person who's pissed us off, or that one person, or even in your own situation, you be in situations and you've managed to turn it around with the mother-in-law or whatever.
You know, you first started seeing someone and they, you know.
Like what I reckon we get a few emails in, right, from people. Like if you're out there and you know of someone who has Chumbawamba'd, I mean, they might have been
comeback?
down and out. They might have been really down and out, and it might be a serious one. You know, they might have really struggled with, you know, alcoholism or, you know, obesity and they've Chumbawamba'd. They've come back stronger.
Yeah.
You know, get in touch because maybe we could find the best Chumbawamba out of all the listeners.
I really like this. You know, maybe father-in-law absolutely fucking hated you at the start. You've pissed yourself in front of him. You've said something inappropriate about his daughter. That kind of thing. I'm not talking from personal experience. Crouchy.
Yeah. You've Chumbawamba'd
but
it.
you've turned it around, and now you're best buddies, and you go to the football together, and that kind of thing. You know,
I'm thinking like Gaylord fucker from Your Parents. Like if you're Gaylord, right, and you've come in and like got absolutely had a nightmare, and you've turned it full circle. You know, like you know, we get knocked down, but we come back again.
That's the perfect example. Get in touch with us. Send us an email. What's the email address, Crouchy?
It's Peter. It's peter.crouch@acast.com.
And we want these stories.
If you Chumbawamba'd, get in touch. Dave, what I want to drill down a little bit on is the psyche and the mentality behind it. Do you remember when United were under Alex Ferguson and you knew they were losing and it was like, get all your money on because you know they're going to win. You know they are. It was like they're going to play 8 minutes of added time and they're going to score. They're going to turn it. And you wouldn't even think that they would draw.
Score.
You wouldn't even think they were drawing. Yeah. You always think they're going to win. Always.
But I think when you look at the points won from losing positions in the Premier League, there are a few seasons that kind of jump out as the best. You know, Bobby Robson at Newcastle 2001-2002 season, best ever, 34 points won from losing positions. But if you actually break it down on, you know, year by year top 10, Ferguson has got 2 seasons and Wenger's got 2 seasons, which is quite interesting because I don't think we think of Wenger in the same way as like he was actually very, very good in those situations.
It takes a certain mindset. I remember Joe Cole saying to me about Mourinho, like the first time he came, and he was like, this man is a genius. When he would say things like, we're going to go a goal behind today, but, you know, keep playing the way we're playing and obviously we will come back and win 2-1. You know, these things were happening. It was like, how does he know we're going to go behind? Like, things like that.
That's a good point. So in any sort of team talk, I've never thought of a manager saying to a team, it's like, I expect us to go a goal behind. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Did that ever happen?
I remember Rafa was really meticulous about, you know, his planning. Often we would train as if you're 2-0 down. So you'd have 2 teams playing against each other. You go, right, one's 2-0 up, one's 2-0 down. How do you manage the game? It's amazing how much when you're 2 up, you kind of retreat and invite pressure. It's all about mentality, isn't it? And I think it's so interesting to tap into that.
Arsenal are one of those teams. Like, so I was in Maidenhead watching this Arsenal game. It was against Bournemouth. It was the one where they scored in the 96th or 97th minute to get back to a draw. Everyone in the pub, it was almost like they expected the goal and they were waiting for it. And then sure enough, Jeff Sterling, like, it's like, and we, you know, go to Arsenal, there's a goal here. So my perception of Arsenal is, part of the reason of their success is they are coming back from losing positions.
Character.
Is that actually the case, or is that just me associating that game and a couple of others with the top?
We spoke about the kind of most points from losing positions in history. This season, Arsenal have the best record in the Premier League.
Yeah, right.
At the time of recording, they've had 8 deficits. They've won 5 times and lost 3 times. And I think that comes in the mentality of some of the players. You know, I'd call out El Parcio, you know, Odegaard, his positivity when Arsenal are down is pretty incredible. It would be amazing to speak to our friend Aaron Ramsdale about the mentality around Arsenal, how he feels as a goalkeeper and these results, these 2 great results in recent weeks that Arsenal have come back from the brink and then they're here and they're back stronger. They're together.
I messaged him recently and I was being a bit parchy, but it was after that comeback and I put, I don't know how you deal with it. It's what we've all dreamed of. And
so parchy.
It just put me either just going with the flow.
Oh, it's an incredible flow state.
Mad, isn't it?
It's a flow state is what they kind of call it in that sense, where you're at calmness with what you're doing, the belief in yourself. You get into a flow state.
Yeah, but this is why I think it'd be good to get him on again, because we had him at the beginning of the season. It'd be great to get him on and sort of see what the differences are, because you say about it being calm, it almost feels to me that it's just a kind of like, I'll just get away with it as long as I can.
But I remember him saying right at the start of the season, like there's a mentality shift here.
Is Aaron winning the Premier League just to prove you wrong, Crouchy, and actually show that goalkeepers are far more important than strikers?
No, well,
is this the ultimate act of shithousery from a footballer that he will go and win the Premier League whilst their striker is injured just to prove you wrong.
I feel like if I've given him that, slight percentage of inspiration, maybe I'm behind this title win,
Peter Crouch takes credit for Arsenal title win.
Not all of it.
We need to ask him. We need to get him on.
Is he shithousing me? Because I said at the start of the season that goalkeepers weren't important. When their star striker, Gabriel Jesus, has been out for so long, he's housing me. Yeah, the only other thing I'm thinking about there is the mentality of a crowd and how much that does affect the game.
Let's all be very honest here. One of the shittest atmospheres I've ever been at has been at the Emirates. It really has, Crouchy.
Yeah.
It was so negative, the whole thing. And there's this amazing thing going on at Arsenal, and we've all seen it, where they go a goal down and the fans immediately stand up, rally around the team. It's phenomenal.
Been a real
to
gear
see.
shift, doesn't there? And I think, I've been on the wrong end of the crowd reaction, like the home crowd negativity. If you get the ball off the centre half, right, and you give it away and you're 2-0 down, you've been there, right? You've probably been the abusive fans, right? Where you've been
Absolutely.
you can hear the whole stadium go, oh, and then there's and then there's shouting and screaming, and then there's booing.
Yeah.
That as a human being is hard to deal with.
Are you actually thinking like that?
You can't hide as a footballer.
Does the bollocking ever actually... Because at times it does look like your team's lethargic or just, dare I say, not caring the same way you are as fans.
That
bollocking, then it sometimes puts the pressure on in a good way.
Definitely.
It makes them go like, fucking hell, actually, like...
It matters. Well, I was looking at it during lockdown, when I was in the stadiums, and there were players flourishing in the no pressure environment. Honestly, I saw it firsthand.
West Ham flew.
I'm laughing because as United fans refer to Martial in that period as like NHS Martial,
Really?
where he was just amazing with no fans. And it's really obviously the NHS did an incredible job during
They did.
COVID.
The applause wasn't for Martial.
Yeah, it wasn't.
And we went out on our doorsteps
Dave
applauding.
was.
Yeah,
Dave was.
We were out applauding the NHS. Dave was on his doorstep applauding Martial.
I was applauding the NHS and saying they were doing a great job. And
Martial.
And Martial, of course. But I remember being
applauded the NHS in a Martial shirt.
Let's all appreciate the NHS and Martial at the same time.
Who's really coming to his own.
So you're saying, in all honesty, this is going back to the shithouse in the original sense of the word. So if you're a shit bag, as I think it's called now, someone who struggles with the crowd being negative, you'll flourish in an environment where there's no crowd.
I remember watching a game when Tottenham beat United 6-1 at Old Trafford, and it was the weirdest. It was like a training match because there was no reaction from the crowd when they were like 2-1 or 3-1. There was no reaction.
But they started pumping it in on the TV, didn't they? Playing in crowd cheering.
It was insane.
That's mad,
and also what I noticed was when you lose a game, players are hanging around chatting on the pitch.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have happened if there was a crowd there. Believe you me.
Well, they didn't do. I think we'd be prepared for a pandemic now, wouldn't we? What we'd have is cardboard cutters of fans, except they'd be with their fingers
play some abuse in.
Or have them so they can lob things. Not that that's allowed, obviously.
Some with flares that go off after goals go in.
Yes, you're right. Activate the flare, and there's one cardboard fan with a flare. We'd be better prepared now.
Yeah, I think so. As you go down the tunnel, you just get a tannoy going, "You're fucking shit. Fuck off."
You're right. Actually, if you look at this from another point of view, which would be if players are benefiting from the positive atmosphere, that's not a true representation of football. And that actually what they should have been pumping in is abuse and the odd kind of booing and stuff like that. I really like the idea of these cardboard cutouts that were there in the stand, dotted around. But you could activate their arm just so that a middle finger goes up or back down, or it's a thumbs up.
What would you, Chris, if you were Watford got in touch and they said, Chris, we want you to provide all the fan noises? And all, would you?
I'd love that. And I think we should make this a podcast thing that actually if the FA want us to record a load of this stuff so that it's ready to go should there be another pandemic, because you can't
I feel like we're onto something here. We could pump it out in training.
Yeah.
We record something, we pump it out in training, and it's right, in this scenario, we're 2-0 down and we're getting absolutely abused. We pump it all in.
Yeah.
And then the same as if you're winning, you're getting cheered, you're getting overconfident. Perhaps how do you cope with that? It's the psyche of a
I had a
football.
mental one. Do you not remember, like when Watford went up that season that it was COVID? I was doing some Watford coverage in the ground, so I watched the game Watford got promoted. I was like one of the only people allowed in the stadium.
The COVID games that I was at covering, you'd hear exactly what the players were saying and stuff. That I quite enjoyed. It was quite a nice. I mean, although I'd been involved in it all my life,
It was an insight.
It was more like it was nice to just sit back and just watch what players were talking and where and who were the leaders.
Weird thing to reminisce on. It wasn't that long ago, and we talk about comebacks, and that's this is all what this is about, I guess. How the game changes.
Well, I think as a nation we've Chumbawamba a bit, haven't we? Like that was a difficult period, and I know we're not there yet, but we're not like sitting indoors anymore.
That's a great thing. Yeah, we're not sitting indoors, but there's other problems where we can't get tomatoes.
We're always looking at the negatives. You know what I mean? Listen, we're not sitting indoors. We're Chumbawambaed a little bit.
Bloody hell, we strayed into politics like dangerously quickly there.
Got all Gary Lineker there, haven't we? Well, I'll tell you what, we've Chumbawambaed well there. It's great to be back. I think we got some messages that have probably been here for a while.
Yeah, we always say, send in your messages, please. We love these questions. Send the podcast in all sorts of weird and wonderful directions. Please get in touch. So this message is from Cameron. Cameron wants to know, who has the firmest handshake in football?
I think it's got to be someone with a build.
Duncan Ferguson.
Yeah, a tall, strong striker.
There's been some crunches over the years. I'm slightly concerned with handshaking in general, really, not just in football. I don't know where we are anymore. Like, now you've got it's sort of like a high five and a shoulder press, and almost a hug. Like you knew where you were with the handshake, but that's become very old school. It's more like, I don't know. It's like it feels like an NFL vibe. Like it's a bit more of a. You go in for a shoulder. What is that?
Watching you on TV, man. Like it's the worst is when you're watching you guys on TV and you're set up around a podium on the pitch, and then a player who's doing a warm up or something wants to come over and say hi. And watching you guys flounder with how you're meant to greet them whilst talking, it's like a massive ick of mine.
I'm struggling with it.
I can't bear watching it.
I think COVID helped in this situation. The only thing COVID helped about is the kissing.
Yes.
In all honesty, I don't want to kiss anyone. I don't feel comfortable with it. Is it one? Do you go in for two and miss and get the lips?
So you don't want to go French, Crouch? You don't want to adopt the French style?
No, I don't like
That's amazing. Sorry. What a great blanket rule, because you're right. Even when mates come over to the house, it's like
the vibes.
The guys are easy to deal with, because even a hug, it's a bit weird.
Get through that easy.
Like, you do that. It's nice. But with the girls, it is the kissing thing. If we just all made a rule that you only kiss your other half, unless you're in a relationship where you're more open than that, it would simplify everything for me.
My thing is like you I think if I went round to the house for something, for dinner, for lunch, I think you have a kiss there, and a handshake with the fella.
One on entry and one on the way out.
I think so. But then when if you see them out somewhere, you walk past the street, you go,
yeah.
Do you cross the road and kiss them?
Yeah.
Or do you just go, you're right, I saw you last week, we did the kiss then, but we're not going to do it now.
You park the car outside, Mrs. gone, do you mind just running over there and borrowing like ... or something?
Kiss them?
It's like, my point is, you've got the car running outside and they're like, come in, have a no, it's all good, I've got the car running, all good. Like,
well, let's have a quick kiss then.
Shall we have a quick kiss? And then pass over there.
Yeah, great. Let's just have a quick kiss and then you get off.
And I'm going to go now. So should we do one more for goodbye?
So I've got what I need and just have another kiss.
I've got the sugar. Let's say you've got the sugar, right? You knock on the door. Bang, bang, bang. They answer the door. Hey, great to see you. Couple of kisses both sides. Great. Sugar. Yep. Got it here ready for you. Yeah, cool. Car's running. Cheers for the sugar. We'll go again. Kiss.
But also, what if the lad sees your missus in the car and goes, there she is. Let me come out.
Missus just in the car.
Let me just kiss her quick.
Go fucking kiss her. Do you want to, yeah, she's just out there. Do you want to give her a quick kiss and then come back?
Crouchy, what's your rules with San Marino on this?
She seems to be so well equipped. Like, she's so comfortable in any environment. She'll hug, she'll kiss. She's like, she can do the standoff one. She can do the hand.
I take her lead, mate.
If you're confident,
Yeah, I've
get
got to be
through
honest.
it.
First time I met San, I couldn't. I didn't know what I was doing. And no, you're so right. She's brilliant at just sort of taking control of that
She
situation.
knows the situation well.
And that's what you need. But it's when you got someone that flaps. a
Oh,
little bit,
mate.
like-
What if you get two flappers? Whoa. You don't know where you are. Two flappers. Fucking hell, mate.
There's a little dance.
The worst
before
thing
he
is, oh
gets someone in.
shit. But you can see a flapper a mile off and you go, fuck, he's a flapper as well.
Good. Well, I hope that's answered your question, Cameron.
Wow.
Been a lot of fun today, boys. Also, we should talk about the elephant in the room, which in this case is the boots on the table next to us. So if you listen to the podcast, obviously you can't see, but there's a pair of really dirty boots on the table in front of us. If you're watching on YouTube or on our socials, these boots are Charlie Adams's from when we previously challenged him to hit a midge's dick from 100 yards,
Which
is
was,
something we
in
did for
fact,
Crouchy.
Dave dressed up as a midgie.
They gave me some bruises, actual physical harm. So if that kind of makes you more excited about the boots, then fair play.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the video, it's on our socials and on YouTube. And Dave was sort of strung up by a harness,
In Regent's Park.
put in the air, and then we got Charlie Adams to sort of kick balls at him. Dave had a dildo between his legs, and the idea was, could Charlie Adams hit a midget's dick from 100 yards, which was a quote that Paul Lambert said at Stoke. So we got the boots, and we were wondering what we could do with them, and we've had a great idea about this, haven't we? We've thought, why don't we say that someone listening to this can have those boots, but we're going to do it as a kind of Swapsy thing. So you've got to swap us something for the boots.
Yeah, I think over the course of the series, I think we can see to where we get by the end of the series. I mean, like this is a great prize, but send your emails about what you've got that you want to swap with us to get those boots, because we'll take a swap, and by the end of the series, we should upgrade each
time.
week.
Yeah. So there was a famous film about this as well, and someone who started with a paperclip and then swapped it all the way up and eventually got to a house. So what we're after here is not necessarily like just high value money. We don't really want cash. We just want something that's interesting and worth roughly the same as the boots that we'll then be able to swap onwards. That's what we're doing with this, right?
That'd be good, yeah.
So let us know if you've got something you'd like to swap for Charlie Adams' used boots as seen in the Midge's Dick video. Please let us know. The email address is peter.crouch@acast.com.
Really enjoyed today's episode. It's good to see you again, guys. Chumbawamba.
Big.
Chumbawamba, boys. We go again next pod. I think there's so much stuff we've got through in this one that we need to action though.
Yeah, it can't be all talk. Do you know what I mean? This Dave Station thing. There's people out there that want it to happen big style. I want to get Dave also down to Fulham for Mitrovic to rasp balls at his arse.
We haven't even explained that one today. But,
No.
catch up on the older episodes.
It's really important. So if you could tweet Fulham, tag me in, tag the guys in as well, tag the podcast in. We need this to happen. It's only fair. I think it's only fair. Like when you make a mistake in life, sometimes there's punishment.
I agree. And also, most importantly, keep passing this pod. Shout about it. We love that we're back. We love that you guys have been messaging us to come back. But let's keep the hype. Let's get this all around football, and let's get involved again, because I think the next few pods are going to be a lot of fun, aren't they?
Yeah. Pass the pod, guys. The Chumbawamba.
All right. Chumbawamba.
Chumbawamba.